Welcome to Transform Now, the podcast brought to you by robotic process automation pioneer SS&C Blue Prism. Digital transformation has the potential to reshape the way companies service their customers, engage their employees, and manage their operations. Whether you're looking to develop strategies, tactics, or best practices to positively impact the future of work, or you're curious to see how other companies have successfully navigated their digital transformation programs, then this podcast is for you. We're here to help you transform now.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Michael Marchuk. Welcome to the Transform Now podcast. Our special guests on this episode are Dan Ireland, David Houck, and Elle Lockett from Discover. We'll be chatting with them today about how they're helping to transform the way that Discover does business, as well as the way they've approached building a successful automation center of excellence. So welcome, Elle, Dan, and David.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I've been looking forward to this conversation quite a bit. So as we get started here, I'd like to hear a little bit more about yourselves so people understand who we're talking to. So if you could just give us a real quick introduction of yourselves and share a little bit more about your background, that'd be wonderful.
Sure, I can go ahead and kick it off. So my name is Elle Lockett. I am the Senior Manager over the Intelligent Automation Program at Discover. So we'll get into a little bit more about our operating model, but my team runs the hub of our hub and spoke model. I've been with Discover for about 7 years, 4 of which have been with the automation program. And I actually started my career in anti-money laundering. So nothing related to technology at all, but came to RPA about 4 years ago and have been in love with it ever since.
Excellent. Dan, how about you?
All right, so I'm Dan Ireland. I am the Senior Manager of Automation Strategy and Process Engineering. I also started at Discover about 7 years ago, originally starting my career also in the risk management space, but on the payments networks side. That's where I fell in love with process engineering and technology and came over around the same time as Elle to help stand up the RPA program about 4 years ago.
Excellent. And last but not least, David, how about you?
All right. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, my name is David Houck. I am the Senior Manager for Automation Delivery. Yeah, I've been with Discover for about 5 years now. Came to the RPA program about 3 years ago as a developer and moved up through the ranks and now manage the delivery of our automations. My background is more in corporate finance. I did 13 years of corporate finance and gravitated towards technology all along the way. And then when Discover started on its RPA journey, it was just something I really wanted to be a part of.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for sharing a little about that. So Discover Card has really embraced the robotic operating model to build out a very interesting, effective hub and spoke automation center of excellence, as evidenced by the award you recently won, the America's All-Star Award for ROM Excellence. So it's been awesome with that. Can you describe a little bit more about what that looks like and how your organization really adopted that particular model?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. We were super excited to win the award. And I think it's a testament to all of the passion within our program and the operating model that we chose. We started our journey back in 2019 with a pilot in the controllers group of our finance organization. The pilot was hugely successful, and we quickly realized the potential that this technology could bring to the entire enterprise. But being in the financial services industry, which is highly complex and highly regulated, we knew we needed a strong centralized governance to ensure consistency across the program. And we also wanted to help the organization automate processes aligned with strategic business critical goals. So we wanted to put the development closest to those who knew the processes. And that's why we chose the hub and spoke model. So what it looks like at Discover is an extremely strong centralized governance that handles dedicated platform support, overall program management, including our in-house training program, and the facilitation of our internal and external community forums. And then we have our spoke team. So David is a spoke team, his team's a spoke team, and those are dedicated teams developing automations aligned with those strategic business goals. As I mentioned earlier, we wanted to get automations closest to those who were doing the work. So we intentionally chose to upskill internal employees on this technology, and they became RPA developers that built and maintained the automated solutions. So that's what makes up our hub and spoke model, but then there's a lot of layers to it. We also have strong partnerships with our first and second line risk groups, as well as line of business finance, technology, and HR. So those partners were really instrumental in helping us build our program to help guide us on the elements that we weren't the experts in. So HR helped us from the very beginning see how the bots could actually report to folks and what they looked like in Workday. So they actually looked like employees in Workday, right? And then we had our first and second line risk partners help us build out our strong risk framework. So we really relied on those internal partners to help us build the program that we have today.
So I have a quick question. As you looked at building this hub and spoke model, obviously governance is very important. And usually when we see a centralized center of excellence, the governance happens there, but you guys have a more three-tiered governance structure. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so at the center, that's where the standardization of our best practices come into play. We also have our traditional SDLC process. So all of the developers and the spoke teams follow the same SDLC process, as well as the same risk engagement. So again, we're making sure that we're working with our first and second line risk partners to ensure that these automations are consistent and compliant. Then we have on the spoke team. So the spoke teams are responsible for the prioritization of those use cases. They work directly with their business partners to prioritize the highest value use cases within that area. So what might be prioritized in our cart operations space might be different than finance space. And so with that, they'll work directly with the cart operations first line risk partners to make sure that, again, that we are building automations that are compliant. And then we have our business partners. So our business partners also have some skin in the game where they're the owners of that process. And so they need to make sure that we have consistent business continuity planning, that if there comes an instance where a process can't be run during the day, that business partner can pick up where that automation left off. So they're still responsible for the process. They're still very much involved in the process, even after automation. And then that's how we're covered across the board.
So I'd like to find out a little bit more about, from the spoke side, how plugging into this governance model works from their perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. For everything that Ellie's just laid out, it makes for just a really outstanding experience, because for everything that Ellie said, the relationships, the framework, the criteria, the standardization, that allows us to just focus solely on just amazing delivery and provide really great experiences for our business partners. Where for everything that Ellie just laid out there, we don't have to spend figuring that out. We don't have to spend our time pivoting away from the tool or what we're working on. It's all been laid out. The relationships have been created, and we can just focus on meeting the needs of our business partners and really adding that value, that personalized relationship, so that they get the most value and the most return on their time spent with us.
So that's very interesting. When you look at that from that spoke perspective, it's definitely something that's spread across the organization. How do you recruit new champions within the business to take on a new spoke?
Yeah. So it's interesting because it takes a lot of different forms. Whenever you're approaching a business area, there's a few key indicators being who are the ones that are embracing technology, who are the ones that are thinking about their processes, who are the ones that are trying to get better at it and have that sort of process mindset. And those usually are our biggest advocates.
Well, that makes sense. So we know that executive sponsorship is really important to growing the vision of an automation first organization. So how has that worked within Discover? How has that impacted the customer experience?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Michael. I can take that. So executive sponsorship has been something that's been absolutely critical on our RPA journey. And we were very fortunate to have that early in our RPA journey as well. And so how I'd say it helps is that it really helps to get the foot in the door with the business and provide them with a sense that automation work is important, it should be prioritized, and that also you are empowered to go out and explore automation opportunities. We found that there was a lot of times where there was employees who wanted to automate, but didn't necessarily feel that they had the freedom or the autonomy to go do so, until we got that executive sponsorship that allowed them the sense of importance and really gave them the time towards investing in automating some of their processes. So we always like to joke that we have both a bottom-up and a top-down approach. The top-down obviously being the sponsorship from our executives, which sort of sets the vision, and communicates the importance of automation. And that really gets you in the door and gets the team thinking about ways that they can automate. And then from there, it really becomes the bottom up, where that's where we can sit with the teams, understand their processes, and then create those win stories that can then be celebrated and across the business unit, create the culture of automation where there are people who are passionate about their processes and are excited by the work that is being done in the automation space. That really creates that grassroots evolution of automation culture and automation first mindset within the area. And so we always like to joke that the executive sponsorship is how you get in the door and create the opportunity for these moments to occur. And then celebrating those moments, communicating them broadly is how you build up the momentum to have it spread across the entire enterprise.
So you're obviously very enthusiastic about having executive sponsorship, which really does help create and push that vision forward. How does that translate into the experience that customers have with Discover Card?
Yeah, absolutely. So for our customers, they are always the top priority for our Discover process owners and our execs as well. And so whenever we're able to create value in enhancing our processes that directly support our customers, that always rises to the top for our prioritization. So really that's when we're sitting in a room thinking about how can we redesign a process to make it better. We think about ourselves not only as Discover employees, but also Discover customers, and how can we make ideal experiences for them each time that they interact with us. And so really focusing on the customer, but also thinking about, if I'm a customer, I want simplicity and I want efficiency. And that mindset really helps drive some of the process engineering discussions and really thinking about where can we make things more simple, where can we eliminate non-value added steps, and where can we re-engineer processes and use our technology tool set to just create a better experience overall.
It's always important to see that customer experience as a priority, and you've certainly seen automation having an impact on the customer experience. But has it also been seen on the employee side? Have you seen that impact within Discover in terms of finding champions and empowering employees both within existing spokes as well as the spokes that are yet to come? How do you see growing that talent across the business to support an automation program?
What we've seen with the employees is whenever they come to us to talk about automation, there's a bit of upscaling and whatnot, and just getting them oriented like what the technology is and what it does. But then what's really quite profound is their mindset after their first automation. It's fun to see as we go through and they start having their aha moments of moving from what their notions were about automation before to after the first automation, their eyes have been opened and what it really means for them and their organization, the capacity it's returning to them, the value it's giving to people, like the way it's elevating the work that people can do. It's just spectacular to see. When I try to distill it down to what is the impact on people, it's really transformative. It's something that they thought they had a bit of an understanding, but then once they see what it can do, it's just pure excitement and elation to see where else we can deploy this and how much better we can make things at Discover.
That makes sense. So it's not really citizen development as much as it is citizen development in regards to their career, developing their career to become developers, because these folks transition from their previous roles as an accountant or whatnot into true automation developers. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm an example of that. Again, background in finance, always gravitated toward technology. And this, like the value proposition of RPA was very, very tangible to me. It's one of those things that when you're dealing with a business partner, the impact is you push something into production and those people are just no longer doing that work. They're doing more value added work. When I see something that is that tangible and very approachable, just with how good the technology is getting, it's very easy to say, hey, I want to roll the dice. This is the direction I want to go in. And within 8 to 12 weeks, I can be making a real impact on my organization.
That's interesting. Ellie, I was wondering if you could comment a little bit more on that whole transition plan that you've designed to allow employees to really move from the functional level back into this spoke model that you've got.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So, myself and another coworker designed our in-house training program. When I first joined the RPA program, I joined as what was called a mentor role. So, we built out the in-house training program, and then we would sit with the newly formed spokes or developers for a period of time, 8 to 12 weeks, and help them build their first automation. So we really have a very focused training program that everyone comes through when they join RPA. We spend about 2 weeks hands on keyboard learning the tool. We leverage Blue Prism University to help with that, as well as having somebody in the room to answer questions real time. And then, so we do that for the first 2 weeks, really heads down on the tool. Then we start to broaden their focus a bit. So the next week is deep dive sessions about discover specific processes. So what's our SDLC process? What is our risk process in terms of engaging first and second line risk? How do we engage line of business finance for those benefit validations so that we can make sure that we're capturing and relaying out those benefits that we're deriving from these automations? So it's a week-long intensive of each day focused on a particular area or process specific within Discover on how we utilize RPA. From there, then we start to build the first automation. And while we do that, we start to embed you in our community forum. So we have a really robust community within RPA. We have a weekly developers collaboration where we talk about all things technical. So any blockers that folks are experiencing or something cool that they're working on, they had success with region mode, and here's how they did it. So really granular details and an opportunity for all of the developers to come together and share information around that. Then we have what's called kind of our COE, which is our spoke managers, and they talk about the day-to-day operations of running the spoke team in terms of sourcing use cases, prioritizing use cases, what platform features are important to them, because there was an interest in expanding into our intelligent automation tool set. We did a pilot earlier this year and brought on Interact. And then we have an advisory council, which is made up of directors of those areas of the business, so using those technology, as well as the SMEs I was talking about earlier, so HR, BT, finance, so any of those kind of key players that will help navigate us in those strategic decisions. As soon as somebody joins the program, whether it's from a full-fledged spoke or a developer joining an existing spoke, we make sure that they fully understand the tool, they understand Discover's internal processes, and they're welcomed with open arms into the community we have.
So I have a question, to kind of an offshoot to that, and that is, how do you handle that transition from, let's say, accountant to developer? Because as far as I remember, I was in finance way back when. I never knew anything about SDLC when it came to developing and that sort of thing. And I imagine most of the accountants in your company probably don't know that either until they get exposed to it. So how do you handle that transition?
Yeah, I think it's when you think about SDLC coming from the business, you're like, I have no idea what that is. But when you break it down into parts by parts, you're really talking about what is the current state process, right? What is the automated solution? And then once it's in production, how are you going to test the automated solution? What do you need to do to make sure that before it goes into production, that you have this checklist, that all your ducks are in a row and you have operational readiness? And then once you put it into production, how are you going to monitor it? So I think we really try and make sure that, I guess from the outside, hearing SDLC or hearing different things within technology coming from the business, you're like, I have no idea what that is. But we try and break it down and we try and keep process focused. So we could say, we understand that you might not know what SDLC is, but your current state process. So let's flow that out, current state process, and then let's use that PDD to now build a solution and kind of bridge the gap in that way. I'm another example of coming from the business, not knowing anything about technology, into RPA. And I think it's once you break it down into some of those concepts, technology or this technology is not as maybe overwhelming as some of the business folks might initially think it is.
That's a great answer. Thank you for that. That's a good way of helping us to shape our thoughts around that. So when we look at building a successful center of excellence, this isn't something that just happens overnight or just happens by itself organically. So for organizations that are being inspired by your successes, how would you guide them to get started in their process to mature?
Yeah, I think, like I said, choosing the hub and spoke model was crucial for us. I think getting really specific on your vision and where you want the program to go will help guide you in choosing the right operating model and choosing the right program for your company. I would say, again, like we really leaned on partnerships where we're not the experts. So we had process improvement experts, Dan's side of the house, and we had people who were experts on the tool. We weren't necessarily experts with HR, with finance. So we really made sure to build those partnerships and reach out to folks who could help guide us in those crucial elements. And that helped us get further faster. I would also say lean into the community that you're creating. So we have a lot of layers within our community. Again, we have a lot of the internal forums and the internal collaboration, sharing of best practices, as well as we host an external roundtable. And I think leaning into that community, again, helps make sure that you're sharing best practices, that you have a second set of eyes on a blocker that you're encountering, whether it's technical or strategic, that you are sharing win stories. So as soon as people start to get excited about the wins, it just keeps building. And so I think really leaning into that community here at Discover, we've had very low turnover, and the movement that we have seen has been seen within the program. So we've had folks come from a spoke team to another spoke team or a spoke team to the hub. So I think one, leverage those partnerships and those experts in areas that you're unfamiliar with, as they'll be able to guide you as you're building out your program. And two, make sure that you're leaning into the community that you're creating at every single level: developer, spoke manager, or advisory council, external peers, like any community that you're a part of and that you're building. Really lean into that, because that will help you in the long run.
That makes sense. So obviously you're not standing still. So what's next for the team as you're looking to grow in the next 6 months, 12 months, 24 months?
Yeah, great question. So I can speak from the hub perspective. We're really leaning more into that intelligent automation space. So again, we are unlocking features that will help bring more robust end-to-end automations to our business partner. We onboarded Decipher and Interact, so we're super excited about that. And I think just seeing where Discover can go. I know we're always expanding our footprint. So we're talking to folks currently within technology and our cybersecurity area. It's an area of the business that we haven't explored before. So really hoping to expand our RPA footprint in that way. Yeah, there's a lot going on, but from the hub perspective, I would say continuing to provide exceptional platform support, expanding the features that will help bring robust end-to-end solutions, and expanding our footprint as people are really excited to get involved with RPA, seeing the value that it can provide to the business.
I'd also love to hear what's next from the spoke side, from Dan and David.
Sure, I can go next. So from the spoke side of things, we're trying to leverage those expanded tools that Ellie mentioned bringing on. And then also we're trying to figure out more complementary relationships between the Blue Prism platform and leveraging like APIs or code stages or batch jobs in conjunction with the RPA automation, so that we're elevating our automation. So we're not at a hammer switching for a nail. We're using the right tool for the right job and kind of bringing things up from just a pure like automation tool to more about automation orchestration level. And so far we've had like really great strides with it, and I'm excited to see where we can continue to push it.
Yeah, and if I could just add one more thing on the strategy side and the cultural element along with this, is that your culture is like a plant. You can't just leave it alone. You have to continue to nurture it. And so really that's what we're going to look to do, is continue to celebrate wins as they happen, communicate with process owners the different tools that they have available to them in their tool belt, so that as they come across opportunities within their processes, they're able to raise their hand and indicate an automation opportunity just as well as any one of the automation experts that you have on this call. And so really that's the intention, is to continue driving the culture forward, creating the automation first mindset, and embedding the tools within the business and within our process owner toolkits so that they're able to scale automation as much as they can.
Okay, final question, 30 seconds each. More personal note, how would you encourage employees who are just starting out in their careers, or perhaps those who are looking to change their careers, like many of you did, from in the business to now working within the automation space? What advice do you wish you had been given? Ellie, we'll start with you.
Oh, what advice? I think just more encouragement to really take that leap. I would never have thought that looking back on where I started in risk and in AML, that I would be now in technology. I remember when the opportunity presented itself to come to RPA, the person that introduced me, he had sent over what the job description would be, and it said software engineer. And I laughed and was like, wait, do you know who I am? Like, I have no experience. But he was like, no, you'll be great. It'll be fine. You'll learn the tool. And I just had to take a leap of faith. And I think that's been how my career has transpired throughout the years, is really just taking that leap of faith. But I would say there was probably a lot of agonizing over those decisions. Am I making the right decision? Is this going to be the right move? Is this something I really can do? But I would just encourage folks to take the leap of faith. And especially if somebody is sending you a potential opportunity or nudging you to look into something, there may be seeing something in you that you might not be seeing in yourself. And so really take that and explore it and see where it can take you.
That's a great answer. David, you want to go next?
Sure, I'd love to. So yeah, everything that Ellie said resonated a lot with me. I think the reassurance I would give someone is that the technology is getting so good that it's getting more approachable by the day. So if someone's struggling with the apprehension, or even once you get into it, I know I struggled a little bit with imposter syndrome. I mean, who am I to be doing all this? I don't have this background. But then when you focus on the results, like the very tangible diagnostic of this process took this group 10,000 hours last year. And now they're able to focus on higher value, more impactful work. That is a change in their lives. Just if you're starting to struggle with that, just look at the results and take solace in that, and just push forward knowing that you're making a real impact on the lives of people and their careers.
Very good. Dan?
Yeah, and my advice would be similar to Ellie's, but just to add something on about taking the leap of faith. I think you can take an educated leap of faith by really trying to take time to understand what are the core principles about your work that really make you excited to show up and do your best. And so for me, I didn't come from a technical background, but I knew that I liked approaching work with a process mindset. I enjoyed technology and I enjoyed helping people. And really opening my horizons to really anything that met those three criteria opened a lot of doors for me from a career perspective and allowed me to feel comfortable making that jump to something that was completely outside of what I was doing previously, but aligned with the core things that I enjoy about showing up to work. That would be my feedback: is don't be afraid to take that chance and really understand what you enjoy doing, what brings you satisfaction in the workplace, and then jump accordingly.
Well, that was great advice. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today. You gave us a lot of really good information to go on and to really think about from both a personal perspective, but also from an organizational perspective on how best to get moving forward to create some effective change within our organization. So I wanted to thank you for joining us today on our podcast.
Thank you for having us. This is great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for tuning in to Transform Now. For more insightful discussions on digital transformation and more, check out our podcast channel where you'll find all of our previous episodes. And to make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player. And if you like what you've heard, please leave us a review. For more information about digital transformation and the future of work, check out blueprism.com to learn how SS&C Blue Prism's digital workforce is enabling enterprise transformation now.